Hey everybody, it's Master Aquatics, and I'm bringing you guys another video! Yay! Alright guys, so I got a special treat for you guys. So I finally got some more new fish, and I got some discus, and I've always wanted discus, and I finally got my hands on some discus. I got two of them. It took me a long time to be able to get these guys because I went to a lot of my local fish stores in the area and I just couldn't find the right discus for me. I couldn't find the right discus in terms of size, quality, color, and price. Everywhere I went, there was just something about the discus that caused me not to buy the discus from one of my local fish stores. And I searched for the perfect discus, I would say roughly since I got my tank set up, because discus were the first fish that I wanted to put in the new tank. But, I couldn't find discus, so I went ahead and got those angels and those gouramis, which were still beautiful fish. Um, you know, but discus is one of the things that I've always wanted, and I managed to pick up a few discus from a local breeder on Craigslist, and I was just amazed at this guy's setup, and I'm gonna show you guys his setup and how he kept all of his discus in good condition and how he was breeding them. Now, these few clips here are of the tanks from the local breeder. This tank right here are the group of discus that I got those two from. And as you can see, they're pretty good size, and not only that, but he was selling them for a good price, okay? A lot of the discus were a lot smaller than the ones you see here at the local fish stores that I was going to, and they were selling them for like $65, $69, and most of the time, they would have them in the color that I didn't want, or they were like sickly, they were just unhealthy. There's always something wrong with discus at the local fish stores, but this guy, he had a pretty good organized setup, and he was doing all of this in his garage. And I was really impressed because there was so many discus in there. I just wanted them all. I mean, there was like colors from ranging from blue to green, yellow, orange, almost any color that you can think of. There was even a black discus in here. And on top of that, he had guppies, and he even had a few colonies of, pairs of angelfish. He just had a whole breeding setup going, and he was doing all of this in his garage. So I was really impressed with this guy. He had, I would say, like over 10 pairs of discus, and these are some of the discus that he was not selling. These are the ones I actually wanted to get, but he was not selling these discus. They were like purple, bluish, whitish, very nice color to these discus. I really just, if I had the money, honestly, guys, I would have went for all of the discus in there. I mean, they were all beautiful and stunning fish. And as you can see, these are the baby discus that he was growing out, and he told me that he had been doing this for 15 years. So he was doing this for a while. And that's a really long time to be breeding fish. I mean, to do that, you really have to, have a lot of time and dedication and put a lot of effort into doing that. And I'm assuming he probably did that with a full-time job or, whatever. But hey, however he did it, I salute the man and I give him his props. Kudos to this guy. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have discus because, I was not going to go and get some discus from any of the local fish stores in my area. I mean, not knocking on my local fish stores because they do have some good fish. It's just when it comes to discus, they don't have the right discus for me. And the reason being is because discus are hard to keep. In a lot of local fish stores, they don't keep their water quality where they should be for discus. Discus require clean and pristine water at all times. You can't mess around with discus. You gotta have, perfect water for these guys, because they're really sensitive. They're not hardy like angelfish and other types of fish. It takes a experience, well, I wouldn't say experience, but a intermediate fish keeper to be able to keep Discus, okay? So if you've never had Discus before and you're wanting to get Discus, my recommendation is get other fish and try them out and see how good you keep those fish before you get into Discus, because Discus is not a beginner fish at all. And I've never had Discus before, and this was my first time, and I made sure to pick out and carefully select the Discus that I wanted. Of course, the ones that we see here are the pairs, so these were not for sale. I would have bought a pair if I could, but he was not selling them, and he's smart. I wouldn't sell my pairs either. And just to give you guys an idea of how big Discus can get, take a look at that guy. That guy is huge. That is a monster Discus right there. So before you buy Discus, just make sure that you keep in mind that these fish do get pretty large. I'm not sure how fast they grow. Somebody in the comments section let me know. I know that they do grow quite big, so make sure that you have a good sized tank if you plan on keeping these guys. Also, they're not too aggressive, I believe, unless you keep them in a small tank and you keep them with too many Discus. They might get a little aggressive with each other. But I have a 125-gallon tank, so I shouldn't have an issue with keeping multiple Discus in that tank. But I'm only gonna keep 2. I just want to try my luck, see how they do. If I can keep them, then I'm gonna get more for sure. And also, I was going to order online to get some Discus, but I just, wanted to save some money, and I just wanted, like I said, to see if I can actually handle taking care of Discus, because nothing worse than buying an expensive fish and just having it die on you because you can't take care of it. Although I'm very excited to get some Discus in my new aquarium, I do know that I will have to adjust to their shy behavior, which I'm pretty sure I can get used to, and hopefully they'll get used to my presence so they can become more sociable and interact with me a lot more like angelfish do. Now, what I mean is that with angelfish, after a certain time period, even about a week, doesn't take that long. Angelfish will get used to you. They'll run up to the aquarium to meet you. Put your hand up into the aquarium, and they will think that you're going to feed them. They'll know when it's feeding time. Discus are the exact opposite. They don't do that. What they do is, they tend to shy away and they tend to hide a lot. So that's why it's always recommended that you get a lot of plants and some driftwood for your aquarium when you get Discus, because they do like to hide a lot, and that's just the way they are. They can't really help themselves. I think after some time period they will adjust to me, and then they'll start being more sociable. Now, the thing is that I'm only getting 2, although I wish I could get more. But again, Discus are expensive. I don't have that money. And 2, I gotta know if I can get these guys alive long enough, because as you guys may or may not know, in some of my previous videos I've had angelfish die on me, and I don't want that happen to my Discus. Because that would be an absolute nightmare for me. I don't want to go through that. Although I think I got it figured out as to what's been happening with my 75-gallon tank. If you've been keeping up with all my videos on my channel, if you're new to the channel, you probably don't know what I'm talking about unless you go back and watch my older videos, which I highly recommend that you do. But I will update you guys on the 75-gallon tank pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. That's the black Discus I was referring to earlier in this video. I thought he was super cool, but he was $100. So, I don't have $100 to spend on a fish, and this is the most money I've spent on a fish, which is $35, which is what I spent on the 2 Discus that you saw in the beginning of this video. Now, I can tell you guys about his setup, but I don't really know too much. All I know is that he was using his garage, and he had mainly, I would say, like 20-gallon tanks and 40-gallon tanks, and those are the angelfish that he was breeding. He was pretty much just breeding like marble angelfish, and he kept the baby angelfish in very small containers, which I thought was fascinating. I didn't know you could do that. I was pretty sure that would make them stunt their growth a little bit, but And this is the colony of guppies. There were just so many guppies in there. There was a lot of babies in there as well. So they've been breeding a whole lot in there. And this just really makes me want to breed my own guppies as well. But, I only have, a few tanks. I only have three. I mean, four, excuse me. And I don't have too much space to put any other tanks. And he also had this cool poster with all the variation of Discus fish, which I thought was pretty cool. And this is when I chose my Discus. Okay guys, so these are the two Discus fish that I went ahead and chose from the local breeder. Now, I know they're not the best looking Discus fish that he had. I mean, he had plenty of other Discus fish that looked way better than these two, but keep in mind guys, these are the first Discus fish I've ever owned. Okay, and these are very sensitive fish. I mean, these fish are not for beginners. And I'm not a beginner, but I'm also not an expert. I've never really kept expensive fish. I've always kept like mollies, guppies, angelfish, tinfoil barbs, corridoras. I've kept fish that if they were to die, I'd be like, okay, I'll just get another one. These fish, they range from $35 and up, and a lot of them are pretty pricey. Okay, so I don't have money to throw away like that, to where I can get a fish and then I don't properly care for them or whatever, and then they end up dying on me, and I'm not gonna go through that process. So my plan was this. I wanted to get Discus at a decent size, and these were perfect at a decent price. I went to all of my local fish stores in my area, and I drove to a lot of stores, guys. Like, I drove so much to look for the perfect Discus. And I even went to a Petco in one of my areas, and they had Discus that big, and they were like 60 some dollars. And I wasn't gonna pay $60 for a fish that's small, and I didn't 100% know how to care for them. So I went with these guys, and he gave me a good deal. They were $35 each for that big, so I paid $70 total. And so far, I've had them for a few days now, and they haven't really eaten, and they've mainly just been hiding behind the plants. And I think I'm doing an okay job. I'm keeping an eye on the water levels. I'm testing the water. I'm doing my water changes. My plan is to do a water change at least once a week. Some people say, you got to do a water change for Discus, once every 3 days. I really don't have time for that. But, if I do a big water change, maybe like every weekend or something, I think the Discus should be fine. So that's what I'm going to do. But nevertheless, I'm excited and nervous at the same time about these two. I'm a little concerned about the one on the left there. He seems a little... I mean, I've never kept Discus, so I don't know if that one's stunted or not. But I know that one on the right is pretty good looking. So, my plan is, if I can keep these guys for at least a month, and they do good, and they eat, and they do great, then I'm going to get more Discus, because that's what I want in this tank. I want Discus, and I want angelfish, and I think that's my dream tank. I think that's what I want so far. But before I even get more Discus and angelfish, during this month I'm still going to be adding more stuff into this tank. I still got to get my driftwood. I'm debating whether or not if I'm going to paint this aquarium. I've never painted an aquarium before. I'm pretty sure it's easy to do, just that I didn't really think about it when setting up this tank. Usually if you're going to paint an aquarium, you want to do that before you set everything up, because it's going to be kind of tough and frustrating to empty out the tank, and then having to move a tank that's half drained of its water. It's just a lot of work, but I think eventually I'm gonna have to do that to make these guys feel more comfortable and secure. Alright guys, so it's the end of the video. Hopefully you guys liked the Discus that I picked out. Like I said, they're not the best of the best, but wish me luck, guys. Hopefully they work out with me. Not like exercising, but hopefully like whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about. Hopefully they do good in my tank. I think they will. I'm pretty I'm a little nervous, but at the same time confident that I can get them to do well in my tank. So if you guys liked the video, make sure you like the video, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and also share the video and leave a comment if you want. If you got a question, let me know. I'll reply. I always do. It might take me some time because I get pretty busy sometimes. Life kicks you in the butt. But yeah, alright. See you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.